We utilize AI almost every single day for almost every single decision on the consulting side of things and the consumer side of things. On the consulting side of things, it allows our suppliers to have exact data and more data exposed to them. The more accurate of the data they can have on the past, the more accurately they're going to project the data for the future and become comfortable and more aggressive in bidding, resulting in cheaper price points with that confidence, with that extra data point. On the consumer side, there's purchasing decisions that AI provides additional insight to, as far as you may not monitor the markets as much as your consultant does, but will at least alert you to the price points in the market compared to where they are historically. And that percentage difference in where they are historically to where they are now can help you make an informed decision on your risk versus reward of choosing a fixed rate or a hedge rate product on the procurement model.
Welcome to the Blue Ocean Solutions podcast, where we dive into real conversations with business owners, innovators, and industry leaders reshaping the future of clean tech, construction, and the renewable energy sector. I'm Kreel Hutchinson, your host. Our guest today is Cody O'Connor, founder and majority owner at Ideal Energy Solutions in the Philadelphia area. We will be discussing his journey from being overproductive and underpaid to building a thriving energy consulting firm that helps businesses lock in green energy savings and reclaim millions in overcharged utility fees. If you're a business owner in the renewable energy or energy-aligned construction sectors, you will love this show because Cody shares how his company is navigating rising energy costs and leveraging strategic partnerships to achieve explosive growth. It's an example of how to build a resilient and highly profitable business by solving critical problems in a rapidly evolving market. Welcome to the podcast, Cody.
Well, thanks for having me, Kreel. My pleasure to have an in-depth conversation with you a little bit about our story and some of the intricacies of our operation.
Fantastic. So for our audience that may not be familiar with you, your role, and your company, why don't you give us a little bit of feedback and a little bit of a description there?
So our company, we are a full range energy consulting firm. It means we have a variety of services that we offer under one umbrella to serve one goal, curtailing costs and consumption through competition, whether that be reverse auction energy procurement, a variety of energy efficiency services, utility bill auditing, and additional services like installing EV chargers and helping with Energy Star score increases through somewhat easy accounting methods.
Fantastic. So how did you get into this work? Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you move from, I think we said, overproductive but underpaid into this Ideal Energy Solutions?
Well, I am one of many Penn State business majors that decided to jump into business right out of college. And I worked at one of the largest firms earlier in my career that had, 15 different offices throughout the country. Really taught me a lot.
Tell us a little bit about how your career started and how you were able to move forward and create Ideal Energy Solutions today.
I have a somewhat long, somewhat windy road to Ideal Energy Solutions. I worked at some of the largest consulting firms in the industry, based in Houston, based in New York City. Eventually, after 10 years in the industry, I became overproductive and underpaid. And I decided to start Ideal Energy Solutions, which is really bringing a single broker's book of business, growing into an international company. How did I do that? Well, first I proven our reverse auction model at the local level with local municipalities, real estate portfolios, mid-sized manufacturing. I like to say in June of 2021, I got Shark Tanked, and we introduced a few minority partners that you may see on our website at www.idealenergyllc.com. And we really expanded our model from a Philadelphia-based company to now we have clients as west as California, as south as Florida, as north as Massachusetts, and as east as London. So introducing guys who are already successful in the, Wall Street space, commercial insurance, lawyers, and partnering with strategic companies that add additional services to our portfolio that are some of the largest companies, in the world, has really skyrocketed our operation and allowed for us to be one of the premier consulting firms just because of our stage and our business cycle. We're going against some of the largest firms in the industry head to head that has been around for 30 years, which includes different operational overhead models that we implement. So we're in a stage of our business cycle. We don't have to charge the hefty consulting fees that they do just to keep the lights on. So that results in a cheaper price point for the end user and allowing us to win these same clients, not because of our name just yet, but because of our actual production and what we do.
I love it. So if I'm hearing you right, you basically spend 10 years working for other big companies, but getting your feet wet in the industry and really having a good understanding of what it takes. You took those ideas, your entrepreneurial spirit continued forward. You created this business. Then more recently, you brought on some really key players to help you build it out. Things are going really well as a result. I think you're strategically positioned very well because businesses that are starting today are being able to leverage this concept of adopting AI or building a lean, mean team right out of the gates rather than having this big overhead that, as you just mentioned, potentially competitors are pulling that baggage from 10, 20, 30 years in the industry along with them. So I want to dive into that unique positioning that you have. Two questions for you. One is I want to understand, for really asking this for my audience, tell us a little bit more about this reverse auction model that seems to be a real key for your success and growth.
So it was originally started for large government defense contractor purchasing. They would put the bid out for whatever they need. Boeing would bid 500 million. Lockheed Martin would bid 499 million to do the project. That got introduced to the energy industry. Previous companies I worked with focused on large government energy contract purchasing where that was the premier model. It's a quote unquote RFP killer. To do what we do through the reverse auction model would take numerous man hours a week. So we partner with 40 different suppliers that we vetted for a few different clauses. There's over 300 suppliers out there that we could use. But since we sell predominantly fixed rates because of the current market trends, we want to make sure they have a few clauses that deal with fluctuations in usage has no effect on price. You can blend and extend your rate, which is basically a refinance if the market were to drop at any point during your agreement, stuff that protects our clients. And basically how it works, we put we get our price request document signed by the clients that allows us to recover their historical usage that's pertinent to our suppliers. We put that in our online portal. So every single participating supplier in that market has the chance to bid on this usage portfolio. If it's a large university, you're going to get hundreds and hundreds of bids back and forth. So theoretically, if you are a large university, you're going to get a good price no matter what. You're going to call up a supplier. They're going to offer you, for example, 9 cents. And through some good elbowing, you know, 5 emails back and forth, you might get that 9 cents back down to, 8.9, 8.85. But nothing's going to drop that 9 cents to 8.1, 8.0 like 43 other suppliers seeing your competitive bids, knowing that we're all bidding on the same terms and conditions. There's no holes for discrepancies that allow price points to look more attractive that aren't going to perform with how they expect. So everyone's bidding on the same terms and conditions with the same clauses, and you're allowing competition to do the work of 43 different sales guys that would be telling you, my supplier's the best. This is the best rate for this reason. We simply allow competition to do the talking for us. And I'll show some examples here shortly that'll provide some visuals, but you'll see at the beginning of the week, the bids might come in at, a certain level. By the end of the week, they're at least 10 to 15% below what they started at. And there's nothing an individual purchasing manager can do to achieve that by individually reaching out without a consultant or this AI technology. There's different things that we have as far as our platform once they're in contract with us that alerts price triggers depending on the structure of their contract. If they want to do hedge purchasing, we'll automatically get a notification. Okay, this price point can be achieved in the market, and stuff that other consultants are using manpower to do that AI can do for us instantaneously. So it allows us to really put our operational costs into our software and have an extra margin that we don't have to charge that can go to cheaper price points to the client.
Excellent. And so, how is the client How are your client conversations responding to this type of model? Is there a large education required, or do they get it and they're like, okay, sign me up? And what is that? What does that sales process look like for you? And how do you find, who is your ideal customer profile? How do you find them?
Well, great questions. All different. Depends on how many times they've purchased large amounts of energy before. They're going to know the pain points of doing it, and our competitive advantage are instantly advantageous to them. They see them right away. They see, okay, I can theoretically deal with one guy instead of many guys, eliminate discrepancies, get all the true bid, the true bottom price in the market, because you're going to see hundreds of bids go back and forth. At some point, someone's going to stop bidding. And that means the next guy's going to stop bidding too. And that means you've unlocked the bottom price for 40 plus suppliers at one time, one stone, 40 birds somehow. It's very hard to do unless you do it through a set time period, through set parameters.
Can you explain to our audience how you come into conversations with your ideal customer profile? Who do they look like and how do you get them on board? What's your marketing look like?
Well, I am a predominantly channel partners sales company. So I've decided to partner. This goes back into our overhead instead of hiring 50 sales guys fresh out of college or paying exuberant salaries to experienced sales guys, multiple of them to acquire customers. I rely on strategic partnerships with companies who already have clients so they can easily introduce our services piggybacked off of their services, and it intermingles well with our energy efficiency companies that have some upfront costs for their services. Why doesn't Ideal Energy Solutions utilize our reverse auction platform? It's a quick turnaround to potentially reintroduce hundreds of thousands or millions in savings to them that then drives the cost down of their new HVAC system, their new LED lighting project, their new EV charging stations. So, not all of my career, I've been lucky enough to rely on experienced professionals from, Wall Street to bring me deals. So at points, I have cold called, Baltimore to Boston, basically, and acquired a big book of personal business that are still my clients today, which I will show you an example of some of these clients and their performance. And it's just implementing that same performance at more of the corporate level and the donor class level that I'm dealing with now.
Excellent. Well, you've built ideal energy solutions on the principle of curtailing costs and consumption. What's the most surprising way you've seen a client save money, and how did you get that impact in their business?
The easiest thing they could do is utilize our reverse auction to save money. There's cases where I could bring up where they've saved 50. Sounds fake, impossible. Us selling fixed rates and the market continues to rise, that type of contract performance will result in over 50% savings, knowing that energy prices throughout the country have risen 40% since 2021. So theoretically, if you sign just at market value at a fixed rate at 2021, you would be sitting 50% below market value here in 2026. Let alone if you get 10 to 15 to 20% below market value by the time you sign your fixed rate. Now we're talking 60 to 70% savings by the time your contract expires. Once again, sounds fake and impossible. Not every single client is like that, but we do have plenty of examples I'd love to show you here shortly.
Yeah, please. Why don't you share right now? If you want to give a case study of anyone you've worked with and what their before and after pictures look like.
Here's one of our longest clients. They are a food food storage facility in Philadelphia. So I'm going to start with a little present, then I'll dive into the past, just because I brought up the reverse auction before. So this is what the reverse auction looks like as an admin view. This is their renewal. I'll get into the previous contract and then we can get into the renewal, but I just wanted to show off. These are the names of some of our suppliers that participated in this auction. If you follow my cursor here, you add up all these bids, equals over 91 different bids back and forth across these fixed rate terms. And if you could see at the beginning of the auction, Constellation, who ended up winning the auction, they initially bid at 8.3 in the beginning of the week. Through these 91 different bids, at the end of the week, they got down to 7.7. So that is what they currently sit at. But let's talk about, since I've been in business since 2016, we can talk about contracts that have signed for 5 years and how they've performed. So this is their original contract 5 years ago. You can see all the fixed rates components. You're not only fixing the raw cost of energy, you're also fixing all of these costs. And we can really get into capacity and some of the industry details here shortly. They have lucky enough to have their capacity costs along with all these additional charges locked from 2021 to December of 2025 before we worked at the renewal at the price point here. You can see 4.49. Now, how did that contract perform over that 5-year period? This is what I was mentioning, where an initial 10 to 20% savings is going to turn into a 50% savings. Now, this is our in-house contract performance data. Thank you, AI, that automatically generates market value from the local utility for their rate class to show a graph and give it extra data points to ensure, performance by us. But you can see they initially signed about 15-20% below market value. As the Ukraine war started and the markets kicked off, they were nearly 50% below market value. Market value started to dip and go up, dip and go up. And by the time their contract ended in December of 2025, the PICO price to compare was 9.9. So here's one of the examples of someone who was more than 50% below market value by utilizing a fixed rate through us. Since we had that performance in our back pocket, the renewal was extremely easy. And once again, they signed a contract this time for 6 years at a fixed rate at 7.7 when the market value is 9.9. When we go to review this data in 2031, that 7.7 is likely going to be 50 to 60% below market value as well.
Fantastic. Excellent results. Thank you so much for sharing that. What is the challenge of convincing clients to opt for fixed rate green energy contracts, especially when competitors might be pushing variable rates with seemingly attractive short-term gains?
Exactly. It's long-term purchasing. And the thing is, variable rates have performed well in call markets during the shoulder season of the spring and the fall. And you have purchasing managers who have bought variable rates for a long time. So it's hard for them to switch their strategy after they've had theoretically good performance, but they've also had horror story months. We could bring up many different points in the market of polar vortexes in Texas, if you remember a few years ago. People on variable rates at small restaurants were paying $50,000 because of a random, you know, weather condition in the localized market. But the biggest thing for me is switching these people to fixed rates based on performance. If they're not budging, at least hedge at least 50 to 70% of your load and keep some of it variable for the first year or two, but use those hedges to lock up 100% by the second year of the contract for performance, just because once again, energy prices are set to double or triple in the next 5 years. They're going to be even more volatile than the last 5 years because of a variety of issues with our grid and capacity. I'm not sure if your audience is familiar with the PJM capacity increase of the last few years, but consumers in 13 states that PJM encompasses paid $2.2 billion from June of 2024 to June of 2025 for this particular charge. From June of 25 to June of 26, that same $2.2 billion was increased over 800% to $14.4 billion. And they announced these capacity charges, a few years in advance. 2026 and 2027 announced capacity rates hit back-to-back record highs. So this issue isn't going away anytime soon. So theoretically fixing and hedging against that with a fixed rate versus all this volatility and all these increases is going to present the best results. And you got to remember, that's just one of the charges on your energy bill. There's, depending on what market you're in, there's 8 to 10 different charges on your supply side energy bill. And if you can fix all of them, if one of those charges went up 800%, who's to say line loss or RTO charge or any of the other charges aren't going to go up 200%, which would result in a drastic increase in your price. So having those components into a fixed contract with the availability to renegotiate your contract in a dip is the easiest slam dunk decision someone can make. We make that slam dunk. We have hundreds of thousands or millions to reintroduce into our energy efficiency projects that curtail the consumption part of our mission statement to curtail cost and consumption. And then we haven't even beginning to speak about the forensic audit, where we can not only do the utility audit, but we can do other services, trash, water, property tax, anything you have if you're a big food manufacturer, we can, audit your food contracts. For example, we have a client over in London whose annual expenses are 3 million in butter. So let alone all those other expenses. If you have big contracts, we can use our forensic audit, where we partnered with a group of forensic CPAs and lawyers and AI auditing software to introduce savings that they've overpaid from the past. So we've really rounded up our game to not only just be as we originally started as a broker firm, to a full range energy consulting firm, utilizing our broker firm services to reintroduce money into these other projects. Now,
I love it. I'd love to learn a little bit more about reintroducing these cost savings into these other projects. What does that look like? If you could explain a little bit more to the audience.
well, it's wonderful for our partners. Like I mentioned, we partner with entire companies that funnel deals from their customer base. So whether they're selling energy efficient printers, LED lighting projects, EV charging stations, controls, whatever they do, these services have an upfront cost or a long-term payback model that they can instantly alleviate these costs by utilizing our services as well, by taking some of the savings out of this pool and putting it into the project I was already going to invest in for new, LED lighting or whatever the project may be. So because the client on our stage of business cycle are not charging direct consulting fees, and that large savings pool goes directly back to the clients to do whatever they want, they can theoretically, through the good selling of our channel partners, use some of that savings for their projects. And there we go, meet full circle with our curtailing the costs and curtailing the consumption goal.
Fantastic. Ideal Energy Solutions has grown significantly through your strategic partnerships. What advice would you give to other businesses looking to build similar high impact collaborations?
Stop. What you know, it's who you know, and who you know is going to teach you what you need to know. So always be available. Because you never know what one phone call is going to lead to. You never know, doing a good job for maybe a smaller client is going to lead to a referral to a bigger client. You always be learning, always be evolving. Just Ideal Energy Solutions has been, up and running for 6 years, and we've added 20 to 30 different individual services to our portfolio of offerings. So how we've done that, it's easy to talk to people, other business owners. They want to partner with you. They want to do business too. And, I've found personally, it's very, some of the clients we're exposed to now, I could have called them 100 times, 1,000 times. They would have never answered. But through networking, I'm reaching out through their golf buddy, or, whoever they actually have a personal relationship with, through networking is going to be the way to skyrocket your business. You could be the best salesman in the world. It doesn't matter if no one listens to you. All you need is someone to open the door for you. And that's what networking provides. So there's conferences, be social, go to them. What are you going to miss? What are you going to gain? You don't even know what you could gain.
Cool. You've already been leveraging AI to process thousands of these utility bills quicker. Beyond that, what's your next frontier of AI adoption within Ideal Energy Solutions, and what problems do you hope that will solve?
So we utilize AI in a variety of different ways for decision making from the consulting group and decision making for the consumer. For example, our proposals will highlight the price that you're signing in the natural gas market, which is the main indicator in electricity prices going forward. For example, right now we sit at 2.8 in natural gas. The 15-year high is 9.9 and the 15-year low is 1.8. So our proposals, we utilize AI to tell you the exact percentage difference the current market is to where the 15-year high is to the 15-year low is. And that number on the proposal is usually astronomical if you're purchasing at the right time. We utilize AI almost every single day for almost every single decision on the consulting side of things and the consumer side of things. On the consulting side of things, it allows our suppliers to have exact data, and more data exposed to them, the more accurate of the data they can have on the past, the more accurately they're going to project the data for the future and become comfortable and more aggressive in bidding, resulting in cheaper price points with that confidence, with that extra data point. On the consumer side, there's purchasing decisions that AI provides additional insight to, as far as you may not monitor the markets as much as your consultant does, but will at least alert you to the price points in the market compared to where they are historically. And that percentage difference in where they are historically to where they are now can help you make an informed decision on your risk versus reward of choosing a fixed rate or a hedge rate product on the procurement model. As far as data capture from AI, the whole entire energy industry uses AI to instantly, interface their data together. So we are all bidding on the same data. And we're strategically relying on AI for the future for the success of our clients and us personally. It allows us to decipher data much quicker. For example, we deal with deals or portfolios of clients that may include thousands of meters that may take me historically months to cross reference an Excel file, every line item before I send it out. With the help of AI, that's 2 minutes now. Makes my job, which when I'm much busier, much easier.
I know, it's fantastic. As we move towards the finish line of the conversation, there's a lot of good things that's happening in your world. There's interesting trends that are also supporting this. What is one or two of the major challenges that you're facing, either internally inside the business or in the kind of global industry trends?
Well, based off capacity and what's happening from capacity to the rest of the energy industry for the next few years has created extreme volatility and uncertainty. So that's a huge thing. What's hard for us once again is just switching some of the old dinosaur way of thinking to the new times, the new volatile markets mean you want to protect against that in different ways. What's already approved for grid expansion as far as loads that are going to be put on the grid is equivalent to 40 Seattle's going to be added to the grid as far as load that's needed. So obviously our grid can't hold an additional 40 Seattle's. So that brings in green energy technologies, on-site generation and storage as huge components of the future for the largest operators that we target. So if they want to rely on the grid, good luck. You're going to need additional, depending on the size of your operation, it makes extreme sense to have that reliability and maybe some on-site generation through solar or other green energy avenues. In short, the grid can only get so much more energy added to it. It already does not have enough for what's needed today. And then we're going to add, you know, 40 Seattle's on top of what's needed. So that's a huge challenge. How that's going to navigate and how that's going to, the energy industry is going to react to the supply and demand seesaw being straight down is going to be a huge issue for the next 5 years. So green energy technologies theoretically could save us. I don't know how fast we're going to implement as much as we need, especially with political changes here and there. There's things that need to be done that hopefully will be done, but even if they are done, I'm not sure that's enough energy for what's needed. So there's a huge uncertainty in the markets ahead that we're gonna have to hedge against, and having a good consultant by your side is what you need to do. Just winging it, good luck.
Yes, you've definitely made a great case for, the value proposition that you guys offer. Really being able to save your clients both in the fixed cost, but also in the auction model, and then also in the auditing services, right? So I can really see how you've come full service in all of the offers in their verticals that you offer to your clients. So this has been really informative. I'm sure our audience has appreciated the insights. Before I let you go, I want to make sure that anyone who's watching today will be able to get a hold of you either to discuss the topic more or potentially even, move forward with wanting to be a client. How do people get a hold of you, Cody?
Well, the easiest way would www.idealenergyllc.com. So how do you get a hold of me? Very easily. www.idealenergyllc.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn with a quick search of my name, Cody O'Connor. Our company has a decent following on LinkedIn if you search us, Ideal Energy Solutions LLC. And
Our audience will make sure that all of those links are in the show notes of the episode. To our audience, if you've enjoyed the conversation, if you've found some value, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Share with somebody who might be interested in switching their energy provider so that they can get some fixed rates in an auction style format and become one of the success stories inside of Cody's business.
Well, Creel, this was absolutely a pleasure for me. I love telling my story, and the reach that you could provide would be absolutely tremendous for us. I hope to talk to some of these listeners in the near future.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show. To our audience, that's another episode of Blue Ocean Solutions Podcast. We'll see you on the next one.